Hey guys, here I am with the 18 part black chess, criminal organization, biker scene. Yeah, I already promised just a few words, whatever. Well, we don't really have any information about what's going on yet. This is kind of a special segment in between. It's about what the procedures are like during an emergency meeting with bikers, with criminal bikers, with 1%er clubs. Of course, I can't generalize here, but this is a bit of the experience I've had in the clubs I was in, the ones I founded myself, and what I've heard from others. An emergency meeting is, first of all, when we know, okay, the guys are supposed to be brought before the magistrate, the police are active, and we're not just dealing with 3, 4, 5 patrol officers, but we know, okay, it's already a special task force. Somehow the state criminal police is active in the city, the criminal investigation department is active, all sorts of things. That already causes a bit of panic because everyone has their own little criminal thing going on. But he's doing this and that, drugs, protection, violent crimes, everything that can come out during these investigations. Very often, especially during police operations, it's also about what they call incidental findings. An action like these break-ins often serves the prosecutor's office and the police when dealing with a magistrate, meaning a judge responsible for issuing search warrants. I'm not even sure what it's called. Oh man, they apply for these at the district court and there always has to be a judge responsible. So they can even be called at 3 in the morning and told, we need a search warrant here, and then it gets approved, unless it's an emergency situation. And that can lead to the whole club being searched, and that's really unpleasant for a lot of others too, especially when, as strange as it sounds, the lower ranks mess things up. Those at the top often already have certain structures in place. Maybe they've even distanced themselves from criminal activity. But if some members, prospects, or whoever mess things up, then the whole club gets dragged into it. And that very, very often leads to a lot of arguments within the clubs when everyone gets dragged into these stupid actions, no matter what it is, a fight at a club at night over a woman, alcohol, drugs, or something else stupid like what happened with us. This series of break-ins where everyone gets dragged in, most people don't want any part of that because I've never met anyone in organized crime or the biker scene who said, great, the police are watching us, that's awesome, I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about telecommunications surveillance, meaning my phone being monitored, calls, WhatsApp, whatever, surveillance, searches. Nobody wants that. I've never met anyone who does. Everyone wants to calm things down as long as the police aren't on the offensive. Because everyone with a bit of brains, even in organized crime, knows that it messes up business. And once the police get aggressive and they want someone and they need an investigative success, they stick with it, they have time, and they wait. Anyone who takes on the city's biggest gang, the cops, will ultimately lose one way or another. Others have tried challenging the state before, believe me, you just have to push back hard enough. We knew it was chaos now, there was a lack of information, and now there were only 7 full members left. The prospects were there, 2 prospects were gone, and 1 member, and then this emergency meeting was called. This emergency meeting is called by the sergeant, who often organizes the procedures within the club. I know he's called Sergeant at Arms, and many people think it's only about guarding the club and so on. It's also about discipline, organization, and more. Taking over this part, and very often the Sergeant at Arms is also the one who organizes the club meeting. In some clubs, the secretary does that as well, depending on how the responsibilities are distributed in the clubs. And then a kind of circular letter is sent out. But we didn't send this circular letter via WhatsApp during an emergency meeting. Instead, we tried to meet in such a way that as few people as possible would notice the meeting. Because this machinery that starts up at the police, they obviously know, okay, now we might be able to wipe data somewhere. Let's see how everyone around reacts. What did they know? Who's involved? Was it a club organized series of break-ins, burglary, and so on? And that's why we were careful. Okay, if we're meeting here like this, then someone has to drive around and let people know. It usually goes like this. Our sergeant or I would call one of the prospects or one of the members. When we met, it was always just like, we need to meet, it's important, or hey man, I need to see you, it's important. The police also know, okay, this is something important, especially when we're running an operation, and if they're monitoring live, then you know it's something important. This is where the intense paranoia kicks in, yeah. Every extremist and every criminal has this paranoia. Are we being watched? Are we being listened to? And so on. That means communication only happens face to face, just between us, or when we're all together in private outside. Then someone would come and we'd say, listen, there's a meeting today at 2 o'clock. Everyone has to come, no matter what, where, or how. Visit everyone, including their girlfriends, parents, or places they frequent like arcades, bakeries, and restaurants to locate them. Search for all of them without calling. Don't mention urgency or club business over the phone. They always tried to keep the club out of it as much as possible because the big concern, and this is true for many clubs, and it was always the case for us too, is that it shouldn't be seen as a club matter. In the prohibition order, which we'll get to eventually, it's no secret. Things like that are mentioned too, that the club took care of it, that it was a club matter, and so on. That's always an important element in the prohibition orders, so to speak. Yeah, if it wasn't a club matter, then why do the members take care of someone who's in prison? Why do they clean the apartments and so on? So there are a lot of problems. And then it's like everyone was informed. Now you could say, yeah, I also have plans to take the hamster for a walk, or I have to work and so on. Work was one of those things where we sometimes turned a blind eye. We still had 2 or 3 people with us who had regular jobs. And they could excuse themselves. It was clear then. Whoever was at work and couldn't attend the emergency club meeting had to go to the sergeant afterwards and get briefed there. I just want to tell you this so you understand. I know it's like, hey, we're cool bikers who only care about freedom and whatever else. This is an organizational feat, and it also strains your nerves. When you ask yourself, yeah, why did you lose your mind, Philip? Well, because I had to take care of these things 100 times. I always felt responsible for taking care of it. That was my job. And even when I was annoyed about the crap they pulled, I still felt like, okay, your brother is always your brother, even if he messed up sometimes. And that I had to do my best to help out there too. That means the club meeting was scheduled there, and it was also clear that, okay, we couldn't meet at the usual places. At that time, we didn't have a clubhouse yet. And we were never really sure about the tattoo shop either, how it was monitored, if it might be bugged. And if we all met there, it would be easy to take photos of us and so on. No, instead we chose a large area, and we often met either at a friend's place, basically in a restaurant basement. We even had a meeting there once. He had a kind of vaulted cellar that he only rented out privately. We had parties there occasionally, celebrating Christmas, New Year's Eve, and other events. Or we met outside, where we knew, okay, we're alone here, we could look around and felt reasonably safe that we weren't being watched here. Those included things such as a parking lot. From a hardware store when it was closed on the weekend or in the evening, or we really met in wooded areas, parking lots along country roads where we knew we were alone. And that's exactly how we did it in this situation as well. And then it's important that everyone shows up. Why is this club meeting even necessary? I'd like to say it's because we're trying to get the best outcome for the member or the prospects who were arrested. But a lot of this is also about protecting the club, so to speak. The club is above the individual, and the club must not be put in danger because of these things. And it was clear to me that now when we keep having these emergency meetings, we would then give the instruction. I always felt it was more important to give everyone some guidance again, so to speak. We did talk about it regularly, like if this or that happens, I behave this way and don't do that. Please don't keep drugs, weapons, or stolen goods at home or in the hallway. You can say it 100 times, but eventually you get careless, the police won't come anyway, and today I'm just too lazy to take it away. It's just completely normal human behavior. It has nothing to do with the people I dealt with. I was the same way. Later on, I also got careless and laziness kicked in and so on. I felt the same way, but believed that in these situations we must act now. People start arriving one by one, prompting you to step aside. You move away from the cars to a safe distance. What happens next? Yes, basically every member has a vote. That only applies to full members and people who hold an office. Everyone there has one vote. When it comes to club decisions, even in an emergency meeting like this, prospects or hang-arounds in this phase don't have a vote. They have no rights, only duties, and they weren't allowed to be present at these meetings either. They had to wait about 50 or 100 meters away while we members met. At these meetings, especially emergency sessions held outside, we didn't wear uniforms. That means we didn't put on any robes and tried to come as neutrally as possible. I have to say, as neutral as possible for us meant printed sweaters with the club name on them, or jackets or something like that. I think some of us, or at least I, had little normalcy left in my closet. In these conversations, it's first about us reporting. Not everyone was there, not everyone was up to date. That means you first bring everyone up to speed. This and that happened. And we did this and that action, then also told them that we found those cards there. There was already a huge fuss because someone from, this is unbelievable, someone from the club was with the person whose place they broke into where the debit cards were found. A sister, oh God, now it gets complicated, of the person whose place was broken into, where we found the debit cards, had asked me beforehand. He was together with a sister of someone from our club, and he already had some influence with us. And he was really pissed off. He was really pissed off. Especially because we were lied to, they lied and so on. You bring everyone up to speed and jaws drop when you hear what kind of crap they pulled. Everyone at the club meeting gets upset about the audacity of them still having that lying around at home and their stupidity. It's not just all high chi, Bombay chi, everything's chill and we're all cool and sticking together. No, it's about more than that, and someone like that deserves a slap and should be kicked out. What's this crap about? And things get pretty heated there. Of course, we've always had a kind of speaking order. This was always done using hand signals and letting people finish speaking. Sometimes you really had to. I also sometimes leaned back when someone else was talking. And then that was never really my greatest strength, that I leaned back and thought, okay, I'll listen to this. And I'm also very good at rolling my eyes and showing a lot on my face and with my eyes when someone says something. But that's just part of it, listening to everything everyone has to say. The rules were definitely enforced. There were also fines if you didn't follow the rules. And people got upset about that accordingly. So everyone was on the same level, then with the weapon and so on. What's important now is, okay, we need to coordinate. What should we expect? What are the first things we need to take care of? Also brought up to speed about this O point, and I immediately jumped in and said, look, O point, it doesn't matter what happens there, no matter what. And if he comes and lies to us again, he's out. He'll be cut off immediately, and that's it. What does cut off mean? He'll have his patch taken away and be thrown out of the club. Everyone agreed on that very quickly, but it was clear, okay, now we have to get organized. That means we have to make sure everyone has a lawyer in time. That's when we set up something like a 1%er fund. A 1%er fund means that we had the regular membership fee, and then there was a separate fund where everyone had to pay in an additional contribution every month, depending on what they could afford. One person put 50 euros into the fund every month, another put in 10 or 20. And so money was saved up every month. There are also a lot of discussions and drama about that, because some people say, well, the guys really messed up and they only ever put in 10 euros. And now we as a club have to pay the lawyers again, putting up 2,000 euros in advance. Those are the kinds of things that can cause a lot of trouble in the clubs. A lot of stress among each other. I don't know if other clubs collect money too. Sometimes they have a Germany fund or a Europe fund or a world fund and so on. And money is collected there for all sorts of different things, depending on when the club, how, where a lawyer is involved, helps pay and so on. I can't say exactly, I don't know. But with us, it was like we at least had an emergency fund to provide a lawyer for these people, because I knew that at home, they didn't have anything, because whatever little they earned from their burglaries, it was clear that it would be gone right away. And just briefly on my own behalf, if you want to support us, my book is out. Hate, Power, Violence, Games, bestseller, the brand behind the product, King, Among the Kongs. Check it out. There are lots of links under the video on how you can support us in our work, de-radicalization, anti-violence work on the internet and or in schools. So lots of ways. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, all of that helps. Thank you very much, and ahoy, the video continues. There's already a lot of conflict in there, okay? The lawyers are on their way. Who's going to coordinate with the lawyers? What's going on now? How are the detention hearings turning out? Who's getting released? What's the accusation? Are there more investigations? What was said there? That means someone from the club is then assigned, okay, go to the lawyers, try to get the information, when the appointments are, when the detention hearing is, who stays inside, what the accusation is, what we can get, which prison they're going to, all these things. Then someone is assigned to it and says, okay, does someone get in touch? Does someone give a signal and say, yes, I'll take care of it? Now you could say, yes, the lawyer has a duty of confidentiality and only gives information to his client unless the client releases the lawyer from confidentiality and says, yes, you can tell that to my mother, and so on. I can tell you most of the lawyers we've worked with, when we went there as a club and said, look, you know, he's with us, tell us what's going on. We often got access to the files or received the files and were told what was going on. For us, that was a kind of biker risk prevention. So it's not just the police and the state that do this kind of risk prevention. It was also something we did for ourselves. We have to take all necessary measures now to protect the club, and secondly, to protect the members. That means things are going well with the lawyers. Another crucial topic for this emergency meeting is preparing for potential house searches, which could happen in the coming hours, tomorrow, or sometime this week. That happens in very different ways. As soon as it comes to firearms, no firearm was found now, but they did find firearms in the safe. That means the police already see, okay, there are 3 guys, all connected to a motorcycle club, breaking into someone's place, looking for weapons. It's possible they've done break-ins before, that they already have weapons, that they've armed the club with them. Yes, of course, that would justify saying, yes, you can take action here because of imminent danger and you could intervene immediately. Still, with a larger operation like this, if you say you have to coordinate it, you have to go after the remaining, what do I see, 6, 7, 8 members, 5 prospects and so on. You have to raid 12 people at the same time, house searches because of imminent danger. You need about a whole team for that. For 12 searches, I would say you need a team of about 100 to 150 officers. It's a massive operation requiring coordination. Timing. When do you move in? Where? What does the risk look like? When we go in somewhere who is considered potentially dangerous, and when. So it's not as simple as many people here imagine, but we were prepared. When coming home, be cautious, clean your phone, and it's best to store it separately. Yes, take it with your friends, leave it at work, and avoid using your phone for now. To protect your computer, store it securely. Really clean everything at home. Don't leave any joints lying around. No cash amounts over 200 euros, because that will later count as a typical denomination for dealers. All these things were also mentioned in this emergency meeting as preparation. And remember, just because there's no house search today or tomorrow, it could still happen next week, in 2 weeks, or even in 3 or 4 weeks. We knew it would take time for something like this to blow over. It takes a while. Yes, so we also dealt with police tactics. Yes, what does that mean? I mistakenly believed that if no action was taken within a few days, the incident would be forgotten and everything would return to normal between the police, the state, and everyone involved. That's not how it works. The state can't be tricked that easily. And while it does set the machinery in motion, it just takes a bit longer. Yes, it was very clear that communication was restricted. Everyone was instructed to pay attention to communication and not to talk about it at all. Very often when we were in an emergency meeting about such topics, we would basically impose a ban on talking about certain subjects. That means even when it was stressful in the evening and we met at the restaurant, we wouldn't all sit down and say, oh, the emergency meeting is over. Now we're having a nice schnitzel, drinking 3 beers, and then start chatting away, saying how stupid they are, and then they broke in there, and thank God we found the weapon there. Those are exactly the kinds of things where you run the risk, and that's what we communicated in such an emergency meeting. I also hope that 1 or 2 investigators here can learn something from this. We definitely would have found much more if the searches had been done more quickly, if we hadn't always been treated so gently, if we had been handled more firmly, even during the searches, not just letting us through because we acted tough and so on. That later became part of our tactic too. That means it went on from there, that someone was assigned to check in at the police from time to time to see what activities were going on there. Checking out these activities involves driving by the police station to see if police forces are gathering there. That's quite easy to observe in a small town. And back then at the Wismar police station, it was also easy to see when police forces were being gathered in the yard. If it's just a normal day and suddenly you see vehicles with Schwerin or Rostock license plates, and you notice that all of a sudden there are police vans in the yard that aren't usually there, that was always a sign for us that something might happen tonight, that things could kick off tonight and so on. We took care of those things too. Someone would get that assignment, or we'd just push it onto a prospect or someone else, just forced it on them, really. So that's your job to do. Basically, during emergency meetings, everyone is always tense because they're afraid they'll get dragged into the investigations. And the mood is always really bad. We always try to keep a low profile. After a certain incident, we decided it was best to keep a low profile. Now, under no circumstances should anyone go out and act tough in a bar, get into a fight or anything like that. We must keep quiet now. It's crucial we don't draw any attention whatsoever. An emergency meeting like that typically lasted about an hour to an hour and a half for us. There is a lot of talking and beating around the bush, as you can imagine. The individual prospects were then brought in either together or alone, depending on who had received a task. Here too, the rule of confidentiality always applied, not even telling the other prospects you have this or that task, or they were all assigned a task. Here too, the prospects were not told everything that happened, like about the pound of this weapon or the debit cards. That simply comes with their status, because they didn't have full member status yet. In other words, we don't fully trust them yet. They haven't reached the point of joining this family and brotherhood. And that was one thing that we always tried to keep certain information from the fans. Great idea, right? Screw it, it never works anyway. Because someone always chats with someone else and tells them, hey, what happened there? And I've rarely experienced a scene where secrets were kept as poorly as in the biker scene. You just have to say that. I know something, and I'll tell you too, especially when alcohol, drugs and so on are involved. The things that got blabbed, the amount of information I got from other clubs and their meetings and emergency meetings and whatever else, no one can imagine. But even at this emergency meeting, people were already expressing their anger and frustration about the situation. What they did there, people then quickly turned to discussing what punishments should be given out afterwards. Well, and they're supposed to pay for the lawyers themselves and so on. That's when the first discussions begin, as everyone is extremely angry due to people's foolish behavior. It wasn't about people being angry because they were criminals. That's not what is meant here. Rather, people were angry because they acted so stupidly that they actually did it, were so brazen with the break-in at the friends or acquaintances' place and then flexing around at night and so on. That really rubs people the wrong way, and you have to keep getting that feeling back in, and that's how an emergency meeting came about. I can already say it here, there was no house search and only one person went into pre-trial detention, and that was Odot, who went into pre-trial detention and was kicked out by us shortly after. Thoman and Hans Wurst were released and they were let go a day or a day and a half later because the judge didn't want to issue an arrest warrant. Do I remember that correctly? Yes, I think so. You see, sometimes there are things like that where I would correct it in the next part if needed, but I just mean, so Odot is certain he did go to jail and not just pre-trial detention. He was released from pre-trial, then did something again because he's going to come out here now. He got out, then we kicked him out. That's how the relationship went. I actually had nothing to do with him anymore. Thoman still kept in touch with him. Then later they met again at the Fuchsberg Highway rest stop. That's on the A20 between Wismar and Rostock. There was an automated teller machine, and I think he used a van, he used an iron chain, he pulled it out of its mount and then tried to drag it across the highway and lift it up and so on. He got caught doing it and was sentenced to several years in prison. I only met him again later in prison. In 2011, I met him again in prison, but he was done. He was finished. I didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Honestly, that person is a compulsive liar. I don't want to keep harping on it, but some people simply can't help but lie. Just for the sake of lying, I have no idea. Sometimes I wondered, with the lies that were told, why lie at all? The truth would have actually been better, but some people just lie because they like to lie. Yeah, Hans Wurst and Thoman left. I still remember we celebrated a birthday in a garden. We celebrated a birthday because we didn't have a clubhouse yet. And the next day when they were dismissed, there was an article in the Ostsee-Zeitung. And I remember this article was very short and small, but someone found it in the newspaper. And it said, Supergangster in Denmark blow up a bank and a safe or something like that and escape with a helicopter. And after that it said, dumb gangsters in Wismar get caught by the police while trying to cut open a gun safe. Man, we cracked up laughing. If it weren't so serious, I'd share the newspaper article possibly in the thumbnail or for channel members and sponsors. I still have the clipping somewhere as a photo. That's really how it happened. Emergency meetings were held repeatedly to prevent this danger for the club. But now it was also time for me to start earning my own money again. It was supposed to get back into the area of drugs, and then someone was supposed to die, which also had to do with the motorcycle scene. How things work there, how the funeral went, when we as the Black Squad were there for the first time, and how we felt about it. But guys, you know what? I'll tell you all about that next time. As always, I'll leave you with an ahoy from the coast. Thank you so much for your support. Feel free to comment, give a thumbs up, and thanks to the channel members and partners.